Welcome to a deep dive into, well, this is going to be fun, a deep dive into bishops and kings and, well, to be honest, a whole lot of historical drama.
Yeah, Drummond is right.
We're going all the way back to 5th century France,
Okay.
which, as you can imagine, was a pretty wild time to be alive. I mean, the Roman Empire's fallen apart, new kingdoms are popping up left and right.
Right.
And in the middle of it all, you've got this guy.
You've got Bishop Remigius of Reims.
Exactly. Remigius. Now, he wasn't just some, quiet, holy man scribbling away in a corner. This guy was a player.
Oh, yeah, a major player. And we know this because he left behind this incredible treasure trove of letters.
And that's what we're diving into today.
Right. These letters are like little windows into Remigius's world. We see his ambitions, his anxieties, the way he thought about power. And trust me, this guy thought about power a lot.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. Epistle 1.
Okay.
Remigius is writing to King Clovis of the Franks. Now, Clovis, I mean, this guy's a big deal, right?
Huge. Clovis is the king of the Franks, newly converted to Christianity. And guess who played a key role in that conversion?
Remigius?
Our man Remigius. So you think, writing to the king, Remigius would be super respectful, maybe even a little, I don't know, sycophantic.
Yeah, sucking up a bit.
A little bit. But that's not what we get at all. That's much more interesting than that.
So what's he saying?
Well, he starts off by congratulating Clovis on his victories in battle. Classic bishop move, right? Blessing the king's military endeavors.
Sure.
But then he goes a little deeper. He starts talking about the qualities of a good ruler. He tells Clovis to be merciful, to be just, to protect the church.
Sounds like standard religious advice.
On the surface, yeah. But it's the way Remigius frames it. He's not just offering friendly advice, he's laying down the law, subtly reminding Clovis where his true allegiance should lie.
So he's like, hey, you might have the earthly power, but don't forget who you answer to.
Exactly. And it's brilliant, really, because Remigius knows that Clovis, this newly Christian king, he's still trying to figure out how to balance his old pagan beliefs with his new faith.
Right, he's trying to consolidate his power, establish a new dynasty.
Exactly. And Remigius sees an opportunity there. He inserts himself into that power vacuum, positioning himself as Clovis's trusted advisor, his spiritual guide.
So it's like he's whispering in Clovis's ear, I'm your guy. I'm the one who can help you navigate this new world, this new faith. Listen to me, and you'll be a great king.
Exactly. Yeah. And it seems to have worked because Clovis, he listens. He relies on Remigius for advice, for support, and in doing so, he elevates the status of the church within the Frankish kingdom.
Fascinating. Okay, so we've got Remigius, the advisor, the power behind the throne. But then we get to Epistle 4, and man, does he change his tune.
Oh yeah, Epistle 4 is a wild ride. This time, Remigius is writing to another bishop, a guy named Falco, the bishop of Tongeren. And let's just say there's no sugarcoating here.
He goes straight for the jugular.
Pretty much. Remigius is furious. He accuses Falco of overstepping his bounds, of ordaining priests in an area that Remigius believes falls under his jurisdiction.
Okay, so we've got a turf war bishop style.
Exactly. And this is where things get really interesting, because this seemingly petty squabble over territory reveals a lot about how power worked in the early church.
Okay, break it down for us.
So bishops like Remigius, they weren't just spiritual leaders. They had real worldly power. They controlled land, they appointed clergy, they even had a say in political matters. And they guarded their turf fiercely.
Makes sense. I mean, if you're going to be a power player, you got to protect your power base.
Exactly. And this letter shows us just how far Remigius was willing to go to do that.
So he's not afraid to throw his weight around a little bit.
Not at all. He reminds Falco, in no uncertain terms, who's the senior bishop, who has the authority here. He even threatens Falco with excommunication, which in those days was a pretty big deal.
Wow. So much for blessed are the peacemaker.
Right. But that's Remigius for you. A man of contradictions, capable of great piety and great ruthlessness.
And all within the span of 4 letters. Okay, so we've seen Remigius, advising kings, throwing his weight around with other bishops, but now let's talk about Epistle 3.
Oh yeah, this one's a doozy.
This is where we see a whole different side of Remigius. The merciful side, maybe, or is it a bit more complicated than that?
It's always complicated,
Yeah.
right? So in this letter, Remigius is writing to 3 other bishops. And he's not happy.
What's got his crozier in a knot this time?
It's about this priest, Claudius. Apparently, Claudius has gotten himself into some serious trouble. We don't know all the details, but Remigius calls it sacrilege, so, pretty bad.
Okay, so serious accusations. What's Remigius want to do about it?
Well, it's the interesting part. He lays into Claudius, no doubt about it, talks about his ruin, warns him about divine judgment, but then he does something unexpected.
He forgives him.
Not quite. He urges the other bishops to show Claudius mercy. He practically begs them to give the guy a chance to redeem himself.
Interesting. So it's like he's playing good cop, bad cop all by himself.
Exactly. He's laying down the law, reminding everyone of the seriousness of sin, but then he pivots to compassion. He even quotes Ezekiel, talking about how God doesn't desire the death of the wicked, but rather that they should turn from their ways and live.
So he's appealing to their sense of, like, Christian duty.
Exactly. He's reminding them that they're not just judges, they're shepherds. They have a responsibility to guide their flock, even the ones who've strayed pretty far from the path.
Okay. I can see how that plays into the whole moral authority thing we were talking about earlier.
Right. Remigius is positioning himself as the voice of reason, the voice of compassion, even when dealing with a serious transgression. He's showing that he can be tough, but he can also be merciful.
So it's strategic, sure, but is there any sincerity there? Do we think Remigius actually cares about this Claudius guy, or is it all just a big power play?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's impossible to know for sure what was going on in Remigius's head, but I think it's worth pointing out that he goes to great lengths to defend his decision to ordain Claudius in the first place.
Ah, so it's personal.
Maybe. He says that Claudius came highly recommended, even uses this phrase, a most excellent king. Now, who do we know who fits that description?
Clovis.
Bingo. So by defending Claudius, Remigius is also defending his own judgment, his own relationship with the king.
Wow, so many layers to untack here. It's like every time we think we've got Remigius figured out, he throws us another curveball.
And that's what makes these letters so fascinating, right? We catch these glimpses of these incredibly complex relationships, these power dynamics playing out.
It's like he's saying, look, I'm the reasonable one here. I'm not just going to throw this guy to the wolves.
Right, like I ordained him, I stand by my decisions, but I'm also not afraid to admit when someone messes up.
Which, I mean, talk about a power move, right? Because it makes the other bishops look kind of bad, like they're the ones being too harsh.
Oh, absolutely. It's like he's playing 4D chess while they're still trying to figure out checkers.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Bishop Remigius, I guess the question is, what can we learn from this, like, master manipulator of moral authority?
Well, I hesitate to call him a manipulator. I think it's more nuanced than that.
Okay, fair enough. But he definitely knew how to play the game.
Oh, without a doubt. But I think the key takeaway here is that power, especially in this period, wasn't just about brute force or political maneuvering. It was about cultivating an image, building a reputation. And Remigius, he understood that.
So it's like these letters, they're not just about ancient church politics. They're about the timeless art of persuasion, of getting what you want by, well, being very strategic about how you present yourself.
Exactly. Remigius was a master of that. He knew how to use his piety, his intellect, even his anger to achieve his goals.
And he definitely kept us on our toes with these letters, that's for sure. It's like trying to figure out a puzzle where the pieces keep changing shape.
Well, that's history for you. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's full of characters like Remigius who challenge our assumptions and keep us guessing centuries later.
Absolutely, my said. So, to everyone listening, the next time you find yourself navigating a tricky situation, maybe channel your inner Remigius, think about the bigger picture, and remember, sometimes a little bit of strategy can go a long way.
Here.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Bishop Remigius. We'll see you next time for another fascinating journey through the annals of history.